Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best of the best to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. We are living very special times, pandemic crisis worldwide, but it's also an opportunity. And there are some industries that are doing pretty well and are scaling like never before. And there are, of course, a lot of industries, especially airlines, travel, hospitality, which are suffering. But this is also an opportunity to prepare the post-war strategy to get stronger after the crisis. And today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Marc Ferré Hausmann, the MD Bayer Service Center in Barcelona. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to everyone.
So it's really a pleasure to have you, and we, as you know, we discuss how to scale companies in different stages of growth. Bayer is definitely on his way to how to go to 1 trillion. There is no company in the world, to give some context to the audience, that has revenues of $1 trillion at the moment. The largest company in the world is still Walmart, with $500 billion at 540 B plus at this stage. Where is Bayer in the picture in terms of size and growth rate?
Good. So as you mentioned before, Bayer is currently is operating in two sectors: the health and the nutrition. So with Science for a Better Life, what we will aim is to provide health for all and hunger for none. This is a little bit our mission. And in terms of sizing, we are talking about 43.5 billion euro sales. This is the sales number of 2019. The Q1 will be released next Monday. Let's see how the figures will evolve. And in terms of employees, we are about 100,000 employees around the globe.
That's awesome. That's really scale. And now the next challenge, as I always say, is how to go from the 43.5 to 100 billion and get on a group of only, I believe, 20 companies or 25 worldwide. So sometimes I think that we have no idea about how difficult it is to get to 1B. So if we think about global Forbes 2000, the last position might be around 2B. So which means that there are only 2,000 companies worldwide who are able to grow beyond 2B in revenue. So getting to 43.5B makes definitely Bayer one of the amazing companies and the giants in the industry. But let's get to know a little bit more about Marc. So how did you end joining Bayer, and how was your career until now?
Yeah, so I started at Bayer about 17 years ago. So previously I was working in other companies, and since then I've occupied different positions here in Barcelona, also abroad. So I am originally also from Spain. And my last position was in Germany, where I was leading an integration project, an M&A project for procurement. And since September last year, 2019, we came back from Germany to Spain. And I have the pleasure to be the managing director of our delivery center here in Barcelona.
That's great. Perfect. And so let's go to the typical 3 ingredients that we always discuss that are super critical to scale a company successfully. So number 1, radical focus. Number 2, world-class leadership or team. And number 3, culture of execution. So starting with number 1, radical focus. Radical focus is even more important during wartime or crisis time, for the ones who don't like the analogy with war. But how do you quickly redefine your priorities when the scenarios are so different from each other? So there are scenarios that says that we will get back to the new normal in September, other scenarios in January, other scenarios in the end of next year, 2021. So how do you redefine all priorities without having clarity about what lies ahead?
Yeah, so let me elaborate on that a little bit. So first of all, I think that when you're defining priorities, regardless of the environment, these priorities must be very, very easy to understand. So it must be short. I like it to put it in one word if possible. It must be easy to understand for everyone. You need to continuously use these priorities in your daily life, in your daily professional life, and it must be remembered. Otherwise, defining priorities are useless. Second element, these priorities must be in line with your company purpose, with your vision. Otherwise, I think that you are not predictable and reliable for the teams, and you might cause a disconnect between the teams and the leadership team. To give you an example, and coming back also to your second question, what are the priorities that we have defined right now in the current environment that we have? The first and most important one is the safety of our employees. So if we are working in a sector, in the health sector, it's obvious that one very important priority must be the safety of our employees, of the families of our employees, and finally of the society. If we would put another priority rather than safety, this would not be in line with our vision, and it would have caused a disconnect between what we want to be and what we are right now. Therefore, right now, the first priority is safety. The second one, and in the current times that we are living, is delivering the medicine to our patients. So if we want to deliver a health for all, we need to make sure that the medicines are being produced and are being delivered despite the current COVID crisis. And this means for us, so companies or department like the one that I'm operating, more corporate related, is to make sure that the daily operations are running. The third priority that we have defined for the current environment is projects. So as any other companies, we have projects in order to prepare ourselves for the future, and that is right now the priority number 3. So we have defined them very, very clear: safety, running business, projects. And as I mentioned before, short, understandable, and reliable. These are the priorities that we have defined for the current environment. Elaborating also on that, you said, how do you prepare yourself for September? How do you prepare yourself for 18 months? Right. So the world is changing that fast, and the COVID is a good example. No, 8 weeks ago, all of us were sitting in the office and having completely different priorities. Right now we are all sitting in home and working completely different. So the world is changing that fast that we need to continuously review our priorities and readapt them. So I don't believe that we can define priorities for the next 3 years. The priorities needs to be continually revisited and reassessed, and if necessary, adjusted to the environment.
Got it. This is a very good point, and I love the way you described that, or that you explained that, which is in a crisis, it's very easy to forget the vision, to forget the North Star, because the context completely changed. And if we keep repeating what is the vision, we might be facing a storm, we might be facing a tsunami, but we keep loyal to our vision. Of course, we'll need to adapt. It is not the linear path that we have thought that would be ahead, and we might need to give a step back to give to forward. Exactly. But having the vision in mind helps with more the long term, and then having the focus on the short term. What I need to do now to go through this stage to get ready to get to the vision. And this is all about the number 2 ingredient, which is world-class leadership. And world-class leadership, it's all about providing that clarity of vision that focus and building an amazing team, having the right people on the right seats to make that vision possible. And we know that there are what we call wartime leaders and peacetime leaders. Very few leaders, and I would say the most senior leaders, are leaders who are able to adapt their mindsets and their leadership styles to peacetime and to wartime. And this is a very difficult mindset shift for the majority of the leaders out there, especially the youngest on our teams. How do you do this shift, and how do you help the team to adapt to the new context?
Yeah, let me first elaborate a little bit the context so that you can better understand my answer. So I'm responsible for the delivery center that we have in Barcelona. We are approximately 600 employees and delivering mainly corporate services to the Bayer Group. So order to cash, procurement, IT, accounting, controlling. So these corporate services we are delivering for the Bayer Group. We are responsible for very operational tasks like receiving orders from our customers, to other tasks that generate more added value, like, for example, project management or COE type of work, where we are designing and defining the processes and technologies of tomorrow so that we generate the efficiencies that we need to generate on the corporate level. Or we are also responsible, for example, for demand forecasting, more IT-related activities in the analytics. So the variety of activities that we have and the variety of functions that we cover give us makes us operating in different worlds. So you mentioned before there's a wartime and there's a peacetime. Yeah, today it's obvious that we are in a wartime outside. So the outside in the society, we have definitely in the economical environment a wartime. But there's also in big companies, for example, there's always a wartime in a function because there's a restructuring program, because there's a growth program. So you are always hit by war times in different intensity. Therefore, what I'm trying to do is not that much focusing on outside, so outside of my organization or the organization that I'm responsible for, but trying to focus a little bit more on inside. And here, a little bit what we are trying to do is to have a really diverse leadership team. Mm-hmm. A leadership team that can adapt to a war, but at the same time can adapt very good to a peacetime. A leadership team that can adapt very good to challenges that we might have in the innovative area, because we need to develop new technologies, we need to develop new ways of doing things, or a leadership team that can be confronted also to ask ourselves how we are going to look like in the future. Therefore, I'm a little bit more friend of having a more diverse leadership team. And as an example, what does it mean in terms of diversity? We are approximately 50-50 in terms of gender balance. We have 13 nationalities in the management team, and amazing. We have also a variety in ages, which is really, really important, to have also more senior people, but at the same time also younger people that come with a new perspective, come with a new ways of doing things. And right now the experience is pretty positive in terms of tackling the problems from different angles, tackling the challenges that we have on different angles, to be resistant in this kind of VUCA environment in which we are living, thinking ahead, thinking in new developments, thinking on an innovative and disruptive way. So the experience right now, it's very, very positive of having this kind of diverse leadership team.
This is a very good point. So you came back to the values and the culture and the DNA of the company independently what kind of stage or season are we living at the moment. And it's good to think that, and we had a previous guest, MD Iberia at Fujifilm, Pedro Mesquita. For the ones who are listening, you can go to also to listen and tune in that episode. That Fujifilm today has 15% of the of revenues focused on the photo imaging business unit. That's where they add the 100%. So which means that in a certain moment of their life, they faced a wartime that might not be related with the economic cycle where we were. So they were disrupted as a company and as trends that were not related yet with if we were in a bad economic cycle or in a good economic cycle. So the best way to be prepared is really to have all the resources and the complementarity and the different leadership styles in the team, so we can be prepared to any moment that we are living.
Definitely.
Very good one. And going to number 3, which is this culture of execution, or again, assuring that if we have clarity of vision, if we have the right people on the right seats, now it's a question of, as leaders, assuring that execution and the learning process is as quick as possible. We are now living a new reality. There are companies and cultures that are more prepared for the remote environment and working from home environment, other cultures that are less prepared. How is Bayer adapting to this new way of working, and how is you and your team dealing with that?
Exactly. So, yeah, we are adapting pretty good to this new environment, especially because in the company that I'm responsible right now, we started what we call the home office program already, I would say 8 to 10 years ago. So home office is something that is on our DNA. What does that mean? So we had employees that were visiting the office between 1 and 4 days a week. So a large variety. So a lot of people were coming only 1 day. Others were coming 2 days to the office until 4 days. So we had the possibility to work from home. And that gave us a really competitive advantage in terms of talent attraction and talent development. Luckily, we also, even before the COVID times, what we identified already in the behavior of our employees and our teams, and that is something that will remain also in the near future and will be even more impactful after COVID, is we observed that our teams are coming to the office, but not doing their normal job. So they were not sitting in desks and doing their operational job. For that, they remained at home. And when coming to the office, what they were typically doing is to meet with the superior, with the leader, in order to discuss development, to meet with a team, so to have some team meetings, to meet with other functions, so to have some cross-functional collaboration, to have innovative sessions, innovative breakout sessions, to develop new things, to develop new technologies. They had social discussions with other colleagues they met in the office, but not sitting in a desk as such and working from that desk. That type of work was already before COVID done at home for Bayer. And this has also some influence on the office layout. No? If you think about the office layout, and that was something we even observed in before the COVID crisis, was that the bottleneck was not longer more in having enough seats, enough desks for all of us. The bottleneck was the meeting rooms, because people want to meet, and people didn't want to sit anymore in a desk. They wanted to come to the office for meeting, for meeting with people. And that we realized that the bottleneck is more and more on the meeting in the office rather than having a desk. Mm-hmm. And that is something, if you think further, with COVID, I think that we are going into definitely that direction. COVID has accelerated all of that. And I'm envisioning in the future that offices will be only meeting rooms, a few desks, but mostly meeting rooms where people can connect, where people can discuss development with their leaders, where people can exchange, where people can learn from each other, can develop new things, but not anymore sitting in a desk. Therefore, coming back to your question, we are adapting very, very well. We even ask our teams to go home almost 1 week earlier than the government. So the last week, the second week of March, most of us were already working from home, and it was pretty good, pretty easy for us to work in a more digital environment. Maybe as an anecdote, we are missing, of course, the social component. And as most other companies, most probably what we're doing right now is organizing virtual coffees, virtual beers, even outside of working hours, so that we, during these times where we are missing a little bit the social component, we are not losing this.
This is a really important point, and also how the real estate or the work office environment industry is changing so much. So, and something that you said that is very interesting is maybe those meeting rooms will not be used for execution issues, but much more for innovation issues. So kind of activities where it's better to be with each other. So we might want to use a whiteboard and go through different ideas, do a brainstorm all together. And maybe it will be one day instead of just, if it is just 90 minutes or 60 minutes or 30 minutes, let's do it online and do not have 1 hour for one side, 1 hour for another side, just to meet each other. Very, very interesting. And we come to the last question of the show, and one of our favorite, which is, if you would have the opportunity to join Bayer or to meet Marc when you joined at Bayer in your first day at Bayer, what advice would you offer to your younger self?
That's that's a good question. I'm typically welcoming. Last year we hired almost 200 people because we had a nice growth. For this year we are expecting to hire about 120 new colleagues. So we are continuously hiring people, and in that sense, one of the things that I'm doing is welcoming all these new colleagues personally until before COVID, or at least virtually. Now, right now, we are also doing it virtually. And what I am telling them is, I'm only asking them one question, or I'm giving them only one recommendation. It goes back to the point that I mentioned before with the priorities. I like to make it very, very simple, to focus on the most important aspects and do not give 10 recommendations, or do not give 10 advices to the new colleagues. Just focus on one, because it's the important one, and do this recommendation good. And this would be very helpful. And what I'm telling them is, they are really essential for our organization, because we need this fresh air. We need this fresh blood. We need people that are continuously asking why. Why are we doing things? So Bayer is a 150 years old company, and so we are not the startup, but we need to somehow bring this startup mentality into a big corporation like Bayer. And therefore, I'm asking all the newcomers, all the new colleagues that are joining, that are young people, telling them, ask continuously why. I do not expect from you the answer. The answer should not come from you, but what I'm expecting is the why, to make the right question, the why. Why are we doing it? why are we doing it that way? Why do we need to do that? Why is it like this? Because these questions will allow us to evolve, will allow us to disrupt, will allow us to be prepared also for the near future, what is coming. Therefore, my recommendation to the newcomers is always the same. Why? Ask yourself, why?
Definitely, it's an amazing recommendation, and from our previous conversations, I can see how much you are committed to your own self-development and the self-development of your team, and this kind of mindset that help companies to keep scaling, especially the most successful companies. We all know of stories of companies that lose their minds and don't have their egos in place, because they are already one of the best in the world. So it's very difficult to keep angry, to keep growing and to keep scaling and going to the next stage. And it's all about mindset. So I love the way we are closing the show. Marc, thanks so much for making the time to share your career and a part of your experience with the audience. And you are always invited to come again to discuss other topics that I know that you can add a lot of value to the community. Thanks again, Marc.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And to you that keeps listening us and seeing us online, we keep bringing you the best of the best to make your life easier to navigate the COVID-19 crisis and to keep scaling your company. Don't forget to stay loyal to your values, to your mission, and to your vision. These are the most important pillars in the situation that we are living today. So stay healthy and keep scaling.